Hello viewer, you're welcome to yet another episode. I'm your host, Jamesboy Imani, and this is my Beautifier community youth, Uganda. Today I'm going to speak about the topic parental stewardship. Um, when you listen to the word stewardship basically means to be a manager. Stewardship means to take responsibility of something on behalf of someone else. Now, basically, in this context, we are speaking about the Christian angle where we as human beings are stewards to what God gave us. I believe that everyone is a steward in one or another in the different spheres of where they are, because whatever we are doing on behalf of God. So one of these spheres is actually parenting. Parenting is a responsibility that is given to the parents on behalf of God. So parents are actually managers to the children they have on behalf of God, because the children belong to God, but the parents have been given the responsibility to manage and raise them the way God would require, according to the godly values. Now, in Psalms chapter 127 verse 3, it says, "Children are a gift from the Lord. They are a reward from Him." So, first of all, a gift is something that you're given that you don't really deserve. So a gift is actually optional. So it doesn't mean that it is a must for everyone to have children, but this is a gift to the parents, depending on how God sees it fit, because I believe God has a reason why everything happens to everyone. So that is like in Romans 8:28. Everything that God does has a reason. So some parents are lucky to have the gift, and even the ones who don't have their biological children, there are still many ways they can still get children. There is adoption and all these things. But whichever kind of way that you got these children, it's still a gift from God, and you have the responsibility of raising this child, whether you're a guardian, whether you adopted your children, whether they are your biological children. All these are children, and it's a responsibility that you have, and so you're their steward. And whatever you do now, you have to do what God requires for you to raise them in a God-fearing way. In Proverbs chapter 22 verse 6, it says, "Direct your children onto the right path, and when they are older, they will not leave it." So basically, most of these things that we see in life, later you see someone who has a messed up life, you see an adult who probably is a thief, you see someone who is a liar, you see someone who is violent, you see someone who is in alcohol and drug addiction. Most of these things that even we see in adults or even in the older youth are things that could have been prevented if these people received mentorship during childhood. So basically, the childhood stage is very important because it's a time now you have to model this child. And there's a saying, how a tree grows, how you raise someone is how they grow. So you can't try to bend a tree after it has become old. If you want a tree to grow the way you want, you start trying to align it when it's still soft, when it's still young, because it reaches a later stage in life when it is hard. It's really hard to just mold something. So this means that the seeds you plant in your child, as they are still young, these seeds usually grow regardless of the things that will come later in life and disorganize them. These seeds that were once planted, they'll always reflect, they'll always reflect later in life. So how you direct your child, this is an encouragement as a parent to start doing something now from the baby stage to about 10 years. That is the right period where a child should really be mentored. The child should really be trained according to godly values and principles, and later this will be a good result. Now when you notice in Proverbs chapter 29 verse 15, it says, "To discipline a child produces wisdom, but a mother is disgraced by an indisciplined child. Now, this thing shows what I've been explaining. People who are not indisciplined, you can tell. You can even tell children by the age of 16, 17, and you can really tell this person was raised in a good family, or this one was raised in a poor, valued family, a family with poor values. So this can end up disgracing and shaming the family. A child does something and the whole family is embarrassed in the end. And these are things which would have been avoided if the parents really did their responsibility well. So how you raise the child in the end again will reflect back to you. So it's not only about the child, but it's also about you, because people will say, okay, this was a good parent, or this was a poor what? Parent. The word discipline comes from a Latin word, discipulos, which basically means to a disciple or a pupil. Yeah, to disciple or a pupil. Now, the thing is, basically here it means to teach, because to disciple is to teach. You mentor someone to walk in the rightful path. So, in this verse, it shows a mother who cannot be able to discipline or to disciple or to teach their own child will later be disgraced. A mother here represents both parents. It can be even a father. So it means a parent who is unable to discipline their child, by teaching them the right things to do, in the end might end up what? Disgraced. So it is very important for parents to take up their role intentionally and start doing something in their children's lives, especially when the children are still very young. Now, there's a list of things that parents can be encouraged to teach their children, especially in the young age. I outlined some few of the things that you can teach your children. Yeah, things that children need in the young stage. The most important, we need to teach children about loving God and loving people, because we see many times children who don't even care about their neighbors. Children are selfish. Children don't pray. Some children don't even know God. So it's important for children to know the value of knowing God, praying to God, and also the value of knowing people. So they have to love God, and at the same time they have to love people. This is very important because we live in a social world, a social setting. So it's very important for a child to know how to mingle with others, by loving and treating other people well. Then the other one is to obey parents and elders. We see sometimes children who do not respect elders outside their home. They will say, "You're not my parent." You see a child even abusing an old person, a child throwing stones to an old person, not listening, very disobedient. And even sometimes you see children who are rebellious to their own parents. So this is something that is hard for you to change when someone has grown up like that. But in the early stages, it's very important, you try to train a child and the importance of valuing, of respecting elders. That is even in the 10 Commandments in Exodus chapter 20. And another thing is, it's also not too late in case the child is still in between the teenage and youthful stage, where you can still try. So, but it is easier at a very young stage. Then also generosity and kindness. This is where children should know we live to share and help the needy, and it is good to help, wherever we can. And this sometimes you can do it by the way you as a role model. The best way to teach, by the way, is by you doing it, by you being the role model. Children usually learn from what the parents do than what they say. So don't be a teacher who teaches by speaking, but be a teacher who is exemplary, so that these children will emulate your example. So sometimes you can take them out and tell them, what, today we are going for charity, maybe at an orphanage. Today we are going to help the needy. These values, you do them practically, they stick in the mind, and for life they will never forget these things. Something else is to read the word of God and pray. So this is the same thing as I've told you. Do it practically every day, maybe before sleeping, maybe every morning, whenever you have a break. Make time to teach them the word of God, to teach them the Bible, and pray together as a family. It's very important when a child notices the father, the mother, praying together as a family. It even brings unity in the first place. but also these are values that will be important in their lives and even in their married lives later to come. In case you don't have, maybe you're a single father or a single mother, still you can do this same thing. It still has the greatest effect. So it's very important to read the word of God to them and pray with them all the time. And then also the emphasis should be put on hard work. Children should learn things in hard work, that you have to work for something. Not this mentality that most parents currently are making the mistake of just handing over things to children on a silver platter easily. Children just know all they need to do is wish it, ask it, and you get it, This kills the hard work mentality, and this later in life brings up children who are lazy and they expect things to just be given to them. And later, that's how you see most of them go off track. Maybe if it's a girl, she's used to getting things free, so maybe at that time it's easy for her to get a sugar daddy or something. So train these children that it is very important and it is godly to work hard and earn from your sweat, to be innovative, to invent, and focus on the gifts, how to be someone important, how to develop things, and how to be paid out of your own work. That is very important. Also, teaching children to be honest. Honest is a very important thing, because these small lies are things that grow up later. It can start with a small lie and later it becomes a big lie. And another way, as I've still said, the best way to teach is by you doing it. So if you're a parent, don't be a person who tells lies before your children. Don't tell your child, lie, or you tell that child, go and tell him I'm not around. Those are things you're teaching your child indirectly, because when you lie and teach a child to lie, then later it will be hard to do it, because you say, even my dad does it, or my mom does it. The other thing is to know their worth. Most children grow up not knowing they're important, not knowing they are valuable. So it's very important for you to show them how special they are. Let them never feel that they lack the emotional presence of a parent. Make them to know that they are beautiful, they are lovely, so that later in life they may not be manipulated by evil people for their wrong agenda. You see, the lack of a high self-esteem leads people later to looking for attention in things like alcohol and drugs and those early sex and stuff. So you have to show them how important they are and how special they are by being intentional to tell them. Open up about the challenges, and so you should also encourage children to be open. Don't cane them, or develop that good relationship where there's dialogue, where someone can say, I'm facing this challenge at this time, this is my problem. When you teach children to open up, then they will have this attitude even in life. When they have a problem, they speak out, and this will avoid problems like depression, mental illness, and addiction. So it's very good for you to encourage children to be open. Though also, and the most important thing here, all these things can only be done if a parent is intentional, setting time aside and intentionally putting the children on the priority list. Make time for the child. However busy you are, you can always squeeze time. There's always this saying that says you can never be too busy for something that you love. So you always have to make time. Now, there are things that you need to really warn your children about, especially in these current times, these current generations we live in, the evil dark days. So these are very important things that most parents might ignore, but these are very important that you need to teach your child now. If you don't teach them these things, someone else will teach them these things, and that other person, you're not really sure if they will teach them with a good thing. Nowadays we have so many particular teachings, and some are so misleading from the devil. So the parent has to take up the responsibility and do these things early. One of these is teach your children against wrong groups, bad groups. Define to the child what is a bad group, what is a wrong group, what is a good group, which kind of people to avoid, which kind of people to move with, and where to go, where not to go, the environments they need to avoid, and the environments they need to be found, because all these things later determine who they can be. They can change their personalities. Warn the children against things like bad television programs, TV programs, internet programs, wrong internet websites, wrong magazines, books, and literatures. Because even through these things we find dirty things like pornography. We find those dirty scenes where they promote alcohol and drugs and all that. So TV programs are highly deadly to the children. And in fact, as a parent, take up a responsibility to monitor what the children are watching, the kind of things they are exposed to, and make sure you control everything. You see, otherwise you'll be having a rebel or a terrible person in your house thinking you have a child. And the other thing, speak about the indecent dressing, because now we even notice a very high rising number of total indecent dressing where people are moving almost nude. And this is because parents are no longer caring. Parents think it's fashionable to dress your girl child the way, in short skirts and all these things. But these are things which later they grow up and they do it, and these are things which spoil them because they seek for attention. They think it's beautiful to be like that. It's beautiful to expose your body. It's beautiful to put on in a funny, rugged way. So parents, and do this also by example. How you dress is how the child will copy. Don't tell the child don't dress like that. When you're the parent, you're doing it. So speak also about sex before marriage and the dangers that come along, because this is the biggest problem. Kids are having sex now at an early stage, 10, 11, 12 years old. So speak about early sex. Don't fear, don't shy away from it. Sit down with the child and tell them openly about this. Then also speak about the dangers which come along. Things like the pregnancy, things like the abortion, things like the HIV, the STDs, all these things. When you do it now, it will be better, because in our current generation, our kids have a higher thinking ability. They have higher intellectual capacities. So a child of 11 years could be having almost a brain that can think like a person of 16 years. So don't undermine because of age. Be intentional and speak to them about these things. Then, of course, habits like dishonesty and all those things, lies, and all those bad habits. But there are also dangerous habits like gambling. There are bad habits like alcohol and drug addiction, and all those kinds of habits which later can be disastrous, because everyone knows the effects of gambling, everyone knows the effects of alcohol and drug abuse. These are things you have to speak to your child also early, and also to avoid those groups and environments which have such things. The biggest thing that every parent has to focus on to teach their child is the homosexuality and lesbianism. You have to teach them against that, because that thing is highly being promoted in schools, in TV programs, in movies, everywhere. It seems now the new cool. So you have to teach your child that this is not normal. It's not something that God recommends according to his word. So they shouldn't take it like a natural thing, because now we see many people joining homosexuality and lesbianism because they were initiated as children through the programs they watched. So be careful, once again, monitoring and evaluating what your children watch and what they're exposed to. And this also Wi-Fi thing has to be monitored, because a child would be in the bedroom and you don't know what they are surfing. There's a lot of negative things that the devil can send to their direction through the Wi-Fi, that thing, the internet. So those are the things basically you need to speak to your children about, and many others that I may not have mentioned. Now, tough love is necessary where necessary. You see, sometimes you have to be tough. It's not everything you have to speak. Sometimes you have to even beat, you have to cane. We see some parents who are scared of caning their children. They don't want to annoy them and all that. But that is actually something bad. And even the Bible itself speaks about it. In Proverbs chapter 13 verse 24, it says, spare the rod and spoil the child. This is very simple. A rod means a cane, that stick. Basically, I don't mean you have to have a big stick, but you have to cane the child. You have to discipline them where it's necessary. And you see this child is becoming too big-headed and all these things and too disobedient, don't be afraid to cane them physically, beating them physically. But this is beating with love to teach, that is very important. So do not spare the rod, because in the end that child will get spoiled and you will get ashamed. Some parents now fear to beat their children, but this is very important. So don't be scared to beat your child, because later in life they will appreciate the things you did, because you're doing it out of love. Now, this is a warning. Some parents should not misuse this to beat their children. We've seen parents who are beating children badly, abusing them, burning them with acid, hitting them with stones, peeling their skins, pulling them. That is actually abuse. And that means you're a very bad steward. And as a parent, if you abuse a child who is considered an angel to God, God will personally take responsibility of punishing you because you've abused your responsibility. Parents do not abuse children. Guardians do not abuse children. If you have a child and you're not taking care of a child, please do not abuse the child. Whether you're a house girl, whether you're a caretaker, whether you're a houseboy, whether you're a guardian, whether you're a step-parent, stepmother, stepfather, please, those children under your care, God has given them to you for you to manage them well. Do not abuse these children. Teach them to do the right thing according to God. And if you're beat out of love. Don't do extremes. That is not out of God. Then in Hebrews chapter 12 verse 11 it says, no discipline is enjoyable while it is happening. It is painful. But afterwards there will be a peaceful harvest of right living for those who are trained in this way. So we see what you reap is what you sow. So this thing that is called punishment may seem painful in the beginning when you're doing it, but later in future it will bring great harvest, great praise to the person who raised this child. You know, people will say this person was raised by this person very well. The glory will come back to actually God, and you, people will praise you and thank you for how you raised them, including this child themselves. They'll be really grateful to you. Now, finally, in Proverbs chapter 29 verse 17 it says, discipline your children and they will give you peace of mind and will make your heart glad. That is Proverbs chapter 29 verse 17. It says, discipline your children and they will give you the peace of mind and they will make your heart glad later. So basically, I hope you've learned from this. Whatever I've not been able to say, you can still do it. The most important thing, let's remember our responsibility. We have to be stewards, managers, and take care of those children to grow up in the God-fearing way because they are God-given gift to us. May God bless you as you raise those children. Don't forget to lead by example. Till the next episode, bye-bye.